Welcome to the Oh So Spurs podcast. We thought we'd do a different format today and do our post-game podcast live because it's more fun and we can go over your questions live as well. And to do it all with me today is Super Stu. How are you, Stu? Over in Burnley this time.
Over in Burnley, look at this kind of grey blue sky. A little different to back home, but great to be on.
I hear you've been scouting Scott Parker for us to see what all those rumours are about.
Let's put it this way: I prefer Steve and leave Parker here.
Worryingly, those rumours sound like they're quite rife in Burnley, though, right?
They are, as I was saying, the plumber this morning was telling me all the talk is that we're chasing Parker. So I hope they're not true.
I hope it's one of those don't flatter yourselves moments. No way. But you never know with our beloved Spurs. And Johnny, how are you, mate, in grey Dublin?
Pretty great. Yeah, I'm good. I just come off my old man afternoon nap, so absolutely raring to go.
You get afternoon naps. That sounds wonderful.
It's beautiful. It's absolutely. I highly recommend it. Getting old, it's there's a lot to it. Just make you guys jealous.
Hey, I'm almost there, mate. Not far behind you.
You're not too far behind me. Yeah.
And hello to N17 Stu. Good to see you, mate.
Hey, bro.
As always. Guys, but on the game, Johnny and I, obviously we were there. It was a funny atmosphere and we'll get into that shortly. But Stu, we haven't had a chance to really catch up with you. And did you, when you caught it from better camera angles than us on the television, do you feel that game was, well, there was deja vu, right? Wasn't there, in the mistakes?
Yeah.
But do you feel that was, different ways you can look at it, was it senior players letting Postecoglou down with big mistakes? Was it the system that just leaves you exposed to those situations? Somewhere in between? You know, what did you make of it?
I think, everyone knows how much I love Vic. But, I can't defend him. There were two mistakes. Even the first one, people like, oh, got a deflection. It wasn't enough of a deflection to take it past him. It was just poor error. For Ange is, you can say what you like about his tactics, but when you've got people like Romero switching off, Vic making mistakes like that, what can you do? Really, what can you do? No one can game manage and prepare a strategy for your keeper coming and missing a cross, or completely letting an easily savable shot get past him. And I think as well that a lot of people are saying, well, they scored and they sat back, so that's the game plan. Well, to be honest, that was their game plan to start with, and they didn't really do anything after that. And I just thought, just look at the stats. Like I was saying to a friend of mine, he's Oxford United fan, so no skin in the game from a rival, but that I just can't believe we lost that game, because almost 70% possession, 2.4 xG to 0.64, 45 touches in the box, 22 shots. The clearance on the line that 9 out of 10 times the defender tries to clear and it goes in off his shin into the top of the net. The other header that Richarlison got down to the corner. We created enough chances to get a draw, if not a win. And I think anyone using that as a stick to hit Ange with clearly just has an agenda.
But then, Johnny, we've seen this before, though, right? How do we keep going into games, dominating them so much and not taking these chances? I just feel when the shoe's on the other foot, other teams just need 1/10 of an XG to get a goal. We need 3 XG to get a goal. Is that down to a front three that need changing? Is XG misleading us? What do you think the answer is?
It's really difficult to tell. I think you look at...
You had a great chance leading with a pun about Matisse.
I know. As soon as I said the name, I thought I should have thought of that before, but too late, I'm afraid.
An easy one.
Yeah. You laid it up for me, and I didn't convert it. A bit like Tottenham. Exactly. Almost rescued the segue there. No, it is a strange one. We were saying, Jim, because it was nice that at least we were able to sit beside each other for the match, which was a good bit of crack. But we were just saying, imagine if Harry Kane was still with us. I mean, I know that's just, it's like what would have happened if Germany won the Second World War. Only that would have been worse than Kane leaving. But if Harry had stayed, yeah, okay, I'm trying my best to get cancelled here. but like if the chances that we've had, like I don't know where I stand with Richy, because like I've always sort of been a proponent of him. He came in the other day, and a couple of people I've spoken to who are not Spurs fans said, "Oh, Richarlison played really well." And then when I was watching the game, I was thinking, I don't know, because what I was thinking about was the missed opportunities, and then I was sort of looking back at the highlights and thinking, well, do you know what? Actually, he's when first of all the goal was an absolutely brilliant header, absolute classic striker's header. He was obviously robbed with the one, the low, was it his low shot that was saved by Sels, yeah, and then and then you add to that the Decky chance where Toffolo took off the line, like Stu just said. I mean, in another day, I'm not saying that other teams don't have bad luck, because obviously those things can happen to any team, but just does seem to think, well, actually, I think Richarlison wasn't actually all that bad at all. There were a couple of opportunities. Maybe he could have done a better job, but I just think that we've been, to a degree, a little bit. I think we realise now how spoiled we were when we had Son and Kane both at their pomp at the same time, with possibly the best strike partnership in the Premier League's history. I think there's a strong argument that they were, and now we've kind of got these Solanke who really does offer a hell of a lot. Like when he came on, did see the difference he made straight away. But I don't think at the end of the day, is if you're talking about end product and forwards and goals, our goals this season are coming from, a lot more spread out, aren't they, than they had been in the past. You're looking at Maddison, and obviously Brennan Johnson's hit the back of the net a lot of times. Solanke's not really done that. He's provided other aspects to his role. So I just think, I don't know. I think we were a bit unlucky, obviously, that their keeper had a bit of a worldie against us. Your man got this ridiculous clearance off the line, but exactly what Stu said. I mean, yes, we shouldn't have lost the game, but we knew what Forrest were going to do before. Spurs can't complain or blame anyone other than themselves. It was better than the Wolves game, but that doesn't say very much, does it? Because that was just outrageously shit. Excuse my language. So, I think at the end of the day, it's just, I think the players probably they tried, but I think this semi-final is just the only show in town, really, that even for fans who are making a lot of trouble to get to the games like we are, it's still like any of us would trade anything for that dream to come to reality. So you can't imagine it's not feeding into the player's psyche as well. I don't know. I'm not sure about the XG thing and why we didn't get those goals, but I do think today, or just 2 days ago, I do think it was a bit of bad luck in terms of just conspiring things coming together.
I think, as Stu said, that was a good point, because I think you kind of answered one of the questions we had at the start, which was how much of our resurgence after we conceded those goals was down to Forrest just sitting back. But as you said, their game plan from the start was to sit back, and I don't think much changed from that. There was some.
They had 4 touches in the box the entire game.
But this is the $1 million question with Tottenham, isn't it? Because why is it this happens so much? Why is it another team just needs 2 or 3 touches in a box to get 2 or 3 goals against Tottenham? And they could have I think when we were 2-0 down to Forest, Johnny and I looked at the stats. Forest technically hadn't had a shot on target that game, and they were 2-0 up. And we hyper-analysed it with JJ, right? Because he's a coach, and he was like, when you really break down the goals, there are so many things that were outside of Spurs' control. Like that shot outside the box, Kulusevski was just half a second too slow in blocking it. And that was like avoidable because he wasn't quite match fit and he looked at it a bit late, whatever. But you would forgive that. Then the shot deflects, and it deflects into a direction where the keeper can still get it. So you think, brilliant. Yeah. But then there was a word for it they used, but the ball basically starts spinning in the opposite direction it normally spins. So then that bewilders a keeper and they go, "Whoa, this isn't quite right." A bit like the ball bobbles and you go to take a penalty kick. And all those things just had to align at the worst possible moment for us to concede that goal. And that the second goal is just what made that game go from a game you think we can come back and win this to, oh, you're not again, Tottenham.
The second goal frustrated because he's been so much better on crosses this year versus last year. And then he just came and just was nowhere. But this is another stat that tells you the differences. They had 4 shots, 3 on target, with 4 touches in the box. We had 45 touches in the box, 22 shots, 6 on target. And that's just not good enough. You've got to be hitting the target. My dad's always drilled into me since I was a kid. You've got to hit the target. You've got to make the keeper make a save, and that's been our problem. But I just want to say something controversial as well about Solanke. I wasn't a big fan of us going for him last summer, but when he joined, I really admire his work rate, holding the ball up, etc. But as I said during the game against Forrest and the group chat, Richarlison offers so much more threat because Solanke, if you think about the games he plays, he doesn't actually have chances. And I'm wondering, is that because he's not making them? Because Richy, okay, he was missing chances, but he's there. And if you look at the stats, he's played 11 games, not all of them obviously starting, scored 4 goals and has an assist. Solanke, 24 and only 7 goals and 3 assists.
Yeah, it's again, and thank you so much, Sean, by the way. Sean, the legend. Thank you very much, mate. Hope you're good. And thanks for tuning in. Oh, Elvis, new member as well. Hey. Elvis, welcome to the show, mate.
Nice
one.
We've
got lots of members only content. And you've joined Oso Spurs in the equivalent of a mass recession of Tottenham. This is literally like, if you're tuning in, this is literally like we started a podcast during that mid-Conte era. So we literally like 2008? 2003 financial crash.
2008,
We literally started on what was the day called, like Red Wednesday, or
Monday or something. Yeah,
whatever it was called. That's when we literally started the podcast. So thanks very much for supporting us. Anyway, the Richarlison thing's interesting because, and I again, Johnny and I were sitting there and we were like, oh, Richie, just getting quite frustrated with him. But then we broke it down, emotions out of it, frame by frame of the game, really went over it in detail. And when you break down the highlights, Richie was a constant threat. And he was a constant threat against one of the best defenses in the league. And he was so unfortunate not to really get at least 2 goals in that game, which would have got us a point. And he would have probably gone from being seen as a wasteful striker to man of the match. If he'd gotten 2 goals, I think it would be undeniable that would be his thing. So would you guys start him again against Liverpool? Do you think there's a case for that? Or would you...
Depends who you want to play in Europe.
Yeah.
Because I'd play whoever I don't want to start against Bodo Glimt.
Yeah. You don't want him to start against Bodo Glimt?
No, I said I would play against Liverpool whoever I don't want to start against Bodo Glimt. Personally, I would go with Richy as kind of the striker who offers more threat against Bodo Glimt.
It's also hard to judge though, because I think both those strikers are victims of wide players that we've got lots of good players on the wings individually. You look at Son as an individual player, Odegaard as an individual player, Tell as an individual player, Johnson. They've all got like strengths, but you just don't have I don't look at our wide options and go, those 2 are the starters and they're going to offer loads of threat and support a striker. It just always feels quite disjointed in that front 3. You end up being like, we've got to play Kulusevski. He's our best player. But you're like, he's not a right winger though. So what is he? Like, where does this guy fit in? Then you played Brennan Johnson and you go, he's a brilliant goal scorer, but he's a terrible winger. And you go, okay, so that's my options there. Sonny goes on the left and you go, he's a great player, but he doesn't fit the role that Ange is trying to play in. It just feels like it's a bit of a messy front 3 that's not really set up to gel very well.
I think the part of the problem as well is that you've got, some of the names you mentioned, the 2 wide players that were playing the other day are obviously fairly new to the club, especially given that Odegaard's been basically, he's not much more established than Tell because he's missing so much of the season. So, both of those guys are really just finding their feet at Tottenham, and I think both of them also offer. I really like both of them, and I think sort of you've got this sort of conundrum with Son when he's on form, when he's hitting his purple patch. He still is far superior to anything else we've got really in an offensive way, both as a goal threat and from the from left wide left positions. But it's a kind of like you said, it's a bit messy altogether. Like Johnson again, is just quite inconsistent. I know he's got end product, but there are games when he just goes completely missing too many times. I think every player has their off day, but I think it just happens too often with him. And then, like you said, I mean, Kulusevski, he's not a forward. He's a funny one because I know you have a question of what is he, and I think when it comes to Solanke, I do relate and I do agree with what Stu's just said. I mean, I definitely think Richarlison just seems to be much more of an instinctive goal scorer. But then when you sort of see what Solanke did at Bournemouth, it looks like there was much more of an end product there. He did score goals for Bournemouth, and he did seem to have a good range of goals. Yeah, I suppose that's fair enough. But if he's done it once, then surely he has the ability to repeat that. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't be giving up on him as somebody who can replicate that for Tottenham. But you can't once you don't have that striker who is going to get close to 20 goals, then things get very, very challenging, don't they? That's probably the main issue.
Our wingers are the most frustrating part because, as you said, they all have something. And Odegaard I really like. I think Tell has begun to show more flashes of kind of what we thought we were getting, but which it's not it's completely understandable. A youngster joining the Premier League for the first time in a team that wasn't playing well. It's going to take time to get his feet. But even Johnson infuriates me because obviously he's brilliant at the back post goal tap in, but even there are times during the game that he will get the ball and he will run at his defender and he does get a good cross in, but he just doesn't do it enough. And it's just like, believe in yourself. Just do it over and over and over again. It just drives me nuts.
It's so frustrating from the outside, isn't it? But just a quick shout to members and comments. So, as Sean said, under Conte, we won games often like Forrest did yesterday, but it was not sustainable. We've all got our strong opinions on that period. I still think Conte would have worked if he actually wanted to
100%.
be the Spurs manager at the time, but that's a longer discussion. He is an outstanding coach. He's just a very difficult character. Would you buy Tell? I think this is a timely question from Mohammed. Quick vote on that, Johnny and Stu?
Yes,
definitely.
If Daniel can get a bit of a discount, 50 million seems a bit deep.
And the reports say we are in discussions to sign him permanently, but at a lower price, which would make sense. Would you reckon like 40? 35 to 40, something like that? Yeah. I love how we've got like in our heads these like values that are placed purely
arbitrary,
on
isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can ask 1,000 fans and they'd all come within 10% of each other. Like, it's so funny how we've got this like radar that's kind of completely imaginary, but we all kind of.
But it's a player that was only about 15 million about 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's funny. Toby Muck's done. I think we need the continuity. Yeah, so I think what you're saying is play the best team against Liverpool. It's 1 week to the Bodo Glimt game. So Jellybean's back in the house.
Hey.
Boy, Jellybean. Good to see you, my friend. I would play Richy for Liverpool, Solanke for Bodo. Again, it's the question of continuity, or it's tough. It's if we're going to sell Richarlison at the end of the season as well. Oh, it's so hard to call. Use both. Leverage the fact we've got a good squad.
Go ahead.
I was going to say we've got to play him if we want to sell him because with his injury record, no one's going to touch him.
In terms of selection for the game at Anfield, I mean, I don't think anybody has any expectations whatsoever other than a 0 points outcome for us. I mean, they're obviously, unless Palace pull off an unlikely win tonight, then Liverpool win the league against us. We don't want to get spanked. We obviously don't want to have a really negative scenario in terms of at the same time we had that horrendous game against Wolves and then turned up 4 days later against against Frankfurt. So, I mean, I guess what I think would be interesting to see what the concern is about injuries, really, isn't it? I mean, even more than just going into the game against Bodo with a bit of confidence. And I suppose there you're maybe looking at Romero and Van de Ven as the players that probably you would be most concerned across the season in terms of the players that you would hate anything to happen to. Although that being said, the second half arguably our defence looked more solid with Danso and Davies on the pitch, not to suggest that they're a better pairing than Van de Ven and Romero, but I think it's going to be quite interesting. Will Ange do something similar to that at the weekend against Liverpool? I wouldn't be surprised if he does, because I think both consistency and continuity and what Stu's saying, they kind of both make sense, which is they're obviously contradictory, but you don't want players to be going in, especially if they've not been playing very much football recently, with a big gap, and it's good to get the minutes together on the pitch, which would be why I would think that in terms of the defensive selection, it kind of makes sense to do the same thing against Liverpool that we did against Forest. But you just can't do that, unfortunately, with every position because there's only 5 substitutes allowed. So then it sort of comes down to, okay, if the game goes to plan and we don't have to worry about making making substitutions due to injuries, then who are we wanting to give the 90 minutes to, and who are we wanting to completely protect from the Bodo being available for Bodo, and then who do we want to give certain minutes to? So I think all of these kind of like nuances are really, really crucial, and it's one of those ones where if the manager gets it right, then he's some kind of a genius, and we'll only find out, I guess, when we've had that first leg, whether whatever happens. I think the worst situation is we have somebody gets an injury against Liverpool, and that would be pretty.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the big fear.
Go.
No,
I was gonna say I wanted to address Toby's comments that what does it matter if a striker's scoring and we're the 4th highest scorer in the league?
Yeah,
in my opinion, it does matter, because we were the top or the second top, and we've slid down to 4th, and that's because in recent games we're not scoring anymore, and that's when you need a solid striker who hits the back of the net on us on a consistent basis.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's because when you look at how many games we've lost by a 1-goal margin,
exactly,
and the way we play as well, when you accept you are going to concede quite often, that means you do have to be top of the scoring charts to compensate for that, and you can't afford to be 5th or 6th. You've got to be in the top 2 in the league scoring goals. If you're going to have a kind of 6th or 7th best defense when things are going well, and you want to win the league, you've got to be at the top of the goal scoring charts. Sean, all of our wingers' problems are the passes into them. The right pass make the defender commit themselves. I do agree. I think the build up, and they're often like just not at their feet. They're often like stretching to get the ball, and then they look up and they're surrounded by people. Keeping Richy might be worth it because I don't think we will get much. This is it though. It depends how much money you get offered for him. Because if you're just going to send him out on loan, it really depends.
Also, it depends what we want to do as a striker. If we want to get a new striker in, I would probably keep Richy as a second choice behind rather than Solanke.
So you'd have Richy as
the backup striker to any new striker we bought.
What, over Solanke?
Yeah, I just don't. As I said last summer, I just don't see it in Solanke. And Richy, I can see as someone coming on as a sub or whatever. And he showed last season when he was fit and he played 10 games in a row and he scored 10 goals. He can score, and he can fit, and he is someone who, when you need to throw someone on, can create havoc in a penalty area, and he might miss, but he's in there to miss, which is it's a key thing. I obviously I spent a lot of time watching Pippo Inzaghi, and he would infuriate you because he'd miss so many chances, but he was there to miss all those chances, and that takes a lot of skill. It's something you can't teach.
The thing I do like about both our strikers, in some defense of them, and this is purely like a reason why I think you can have a discussion about whether they're good enough or not, but none of us dislike them, is they all work really, really hard. and they all have the right attitude you want. They feel like they're trying to make it work for Spurs, but if they're not good enough, that's down to our scouting where we messed that up. And I agree with you, Howard. I do like an underdog story. It would be nice to see Richy bring it back, but it's always Spurs' way, isn't it? He hits form with 6 months to go left in his contract, and someone else picks up the benefit. We've patched him up and got him firing again.
And you never know if he stays fit. That's the problem.
That's the other thing.
You can rely on him not being, to be honest.
Yeah.
Let's be honest,
Thomas Mullen, buying from La Liga has been appalling. All signings were failures, all of them. Well, Reese did he sent an email in, and he's done a really good analytical piece of research on all the potential options Tottenham have if they were to part ways with Ange Postecoglou. So I think we're going to have to dedicate like 10, 15 minutes to that on a separate episode, Reese, to like really focus on that, which we will do at some point this week. And thanks for putting it together. And it was great to meet you at the ground as well. Fortunate result, but let's make sure we catch up again next time and a bit more, because I'm conscious we didn't get to catch up for long. Good to see you too, Howard, as always. You're welcome to hop in, mate, if you're around and you're free for 5. Let us know if you're around. Let us know. Richie spends 90% of his time injured. Yes. Soldado, a failure. He was indeed. That was a good point, though, Reece. Have we ever had a La Liga signing that's worked?
We had Reggie who failed, Emerson who failed. What's the name of our monkeys boy? I forgot his name. The winger who's injured at the moment with the monkey's haircut.
Brian Hill.
Hill.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lo Celso wasn't. He was injured too much as well.
Also,
Eric Lamela.
He came from Serie A.
He did. Roma. That's right, Roma. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. None have really worked. Yeah, it's crazy. That's true. Yeah. League One apparently has the biggest hit rate, even though it feels like they don't. That's why Premier League clubs buy more from League One than they do from, I think, the next 2 divisions combined. Van der Vaart.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Van der Vaart did work out very well. That is true. I'm not sure that's deliberate.
No, I was about to say, put some respect on Raphael's name.
I'm just F and V are next to each other, so I do think that was a typo. But yeah.
It's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, true. How do you pronounce it?
It's not a Vaart, it's a fart.
Is it? It's Van der Vaart?
Yeah.
Toby from Atletico. Well, he was kind of Southampton.
Yeah.
Was he Southampton or Atletico?
Yeah, he was Atletico on loan in Southampton.
That's right.
Okay. So someone else had bedded him in. But yeah, okay, that kind of counts. Give you half a point on that one. So our best signings are probably, who have they been? Luka Modric came from Croatia.
Yeah.
Berbatov, Bundesliga.
Oh,
Bundesliga, yeah. Harry Kane Academy.
Jan
Bale
from Ajax, from the Dutch league.
Yeah.
Jan Vertonghen.
Udogi, Vic, Serie A.
Interesting.
Mickey, Bundesliga.
Yeah, Sonny was Bundesliga as well, wasn't he?
Sonny was. Yeah, we should just focus on the Bundesliga.
Yeah. 1 second, you guys carry on. My son is screaming my name and crying. Just want to make sure he's okay. But I will leave you with the question of, we'll start to move into the Liverpool game. Predicted lineups for Liverpool. And predicted scores. Should we finish off with that?
Yeah.
Sound good? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, perfect. I don't know. Obviously, like Stu, you were saying before about resting players. So I think when it comes to the lineup for Bodo, maybe some people are throwing Vicario into the mix in terms of not starting, which I just don't think is I understand why people might say that, but I really don't see the value in that, even though Kinski didn't do a whole lot wrong. The defense is pretty much, with the 4, unless there's a debate about whether Tell or Porro starts, but it looks like not Tell. Spence, thank you. But it looks like it's probably going to be Porro and the 2 usuals in the middle, and the doggy, the way things are going for Bodo.
Yeah.
So, what do you think he might be inclined to do then for the Liverpool game?
I agree with you. I think he's going to play Vic, and I think it's also because if he doesn't after the clanger, it
Yeah.
would hit his confidence. I think so. I think
Yeah.
he won't do it from a man management perspective. And I agree with you. I think he doesn't seem to fancy Spence. So he'll probably play Spence at right back, and then probably Danso and
Davies,
Davies, and then Gray maybe.
Yeah, it seems like Udogie's taken the throne of the starting left back, isn't it? Which you couldn't believe if you went, but we've got two such good left backs, so that's the case right now.
But if you think, I mean, I'm really happy, obviously, with my Italian hat on. I'm really happy to see him regain his form, because those injuries had a lot of, last season and this season had a lot of people writing him off. So it was nice to see that he has regained a form, and I mean, he is a class player.
Yeah. And predictions, guys, on the scoreline?
We haven't finished. We haven't finished.
We just did defense.
Oh, sorry. Right, midfield then. Same again. Bent couldn't really very comfortable in that 6 role, though, did he?
He's not a 6.
He's not. Would you put Biss in? He doesn't look very comfortable in the 6 either.
No.
It's supposed that the really maybe the deciding factor is how are we going to play against Bodo in the first leg, and then there's a lot of talk about the fact that they're 2 of their best players are suspended for the game, and given how tricky it is to go to their place, looking at their history in the competition this year especially, but previously as well, we know that's going to be really difficult. So if you can have a 2-goal lead going into the second leg, you sort of really want to be giving yourself the option to do that and really make an impact in that first leg. So then I think that selection almost decides who is going to be the choice for the Liverpool game, bearing in mind also the minutes you want to give to players who haven't played very much, and whether who you're willing to take a risk on in terms of injuries. So I don't know, like how it's still 10 days or whatever it is. It's only 8 days now to the Bodo game, but you kind of like, and there's another game in between. It's a bit weird that you can, but I think that's probably what Ange would have to do in terms, because clearly everything is really about that Bodo game.
Yeah.
I don't know, like what. So with that in mind, who would you have in midfield and who would you have up front against Bodo? Because we kind of know what the defense is almost certainly going to be.
Well, I think against Bodo, you're going to play Bentancur, Bergvall, and Madison. So in that case, I would play against Liverpool. I'd play Biss, Sar, and Kulu. Get some minutes in Kulu as well.
So you would probably see Kulu coming off the bench in the first leg.
Yeah. I don't think Madison's done anything to deserve to be dropped.
He's
And Kulu, I know he started the season amazingly well, but he hasn't played that well. Again, he's been run into the ground, but it's not that he's been playing fantastically. Whereas I think Madison's form recently has been much better.
That's fair enough.
And then would you have Sonny starting it against? I think Sonny's probably likely to start, isn't he? The way based on just kind of history through the season, you can see him starting against Bodo, and then also I wouldn't be surprised therefore if Johnson starts as well, because it's kind of been the default. And if Johnson's firing all cylinders like we said earlier, it really can make the difference. And then probably Solanke starts again for the same reason as that's what's happened. But from the goal scoring threat, you sort of think, well, if those crosses are coming in and it's Richy in the middle, maybe that's a better ratio of goals coming in.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to go Son, Johnson, Solanke. It's a front three, Madison in the creative role. But it's great to have these options off the bench, right?
You can imagine like an Odober Tell coming on after 70 minutes and just running at these tired legs of Bodo Glimt. I mean, they'd be frightened to death when they're running at them. And as you said, Johnny, I fully agree. We need to get a 2-0, 3-0 lead, because there are no mugs on their home patch.
Exactly. That's what the Tottenham fan living in Sando lives in Bodo Glimt, and it's a Tottenham fan primarily, but also follows them closely, said based on the way they've beaten all these other big clubs in Europe, even with a 2-0 lead, he wouldn't feel confident we could hold back there. Like, they're getting all their key players back. We'll be complacent. It'll be really difficult for us to play on that surface, be a really hostile atmosphere. You ideally want a 3-goal lead going into that game. And even then, you're going to be uncomfortable, potentially. It's not going to be easy.
No.
But they are missing their 2 of their best 3 players. I think now their first 3 choice players, they had another injury last week and unavailable in that first leg. So
the 3 of them are missing. So
Patrick Berg is the big one. I think that Patrick Berg's their centre midfielder. He's class.
Yeah,
we really need to drive home this advantage.
Just quickly, guys, predictions for Liverpool, and then I'll need to wrap up. But score-wise, go on, Johnny. Start with.
Okay, I'm going to say that we take some kind of freak lead, but I'm going to do the opposite of a gym. But eventually, with everything that's on the line for Liverpool, and given that we've got this huge game 4 days later, I think that Liverpool will end up winning 3. I'm going to say 3-1 to Liverpool. Goes against the grain to predict the Spurs defeat, but it's got to be real,
Yeah. Understood. You, Stu?
Yeah, I mean, I hate predicting a loss, but with everything that's riding on the game for them, the way that we're playing with, our players are going to have half an eye on the next one. I think we're going to lose 3-0.
God, I'm going to go to surprise everyone with a 2-2 draw.
All right.
2-2 draw. It'd be enough for Liverpool to win the league.
Okay.
Anyway,
I don't know. I suppose it depends on what happens tonight.
Hopefully,
because they can win it. They could win it tonight, technically. You say.
Yeah. Hopefully,
if they win it tonight, they'll be so hungover.
Yeah.
We'll be fine.
Well, that's the thing. The thing. But then Palace are going to win at the Emirates. I don't think so.
Inshallah.
Yeah, indeed.
Palace will win at the Emirates. Liverpool win tonight. They'll all be hungover. Spurs win 5-0. There we go.
That would be beautiful.
Right, guys. Up the Spurs.
Kill on you, Spurs.
Will you, Spurs?